She is the most dangerous devil in all of Southeast Asia. I gave her a piece of cake when she was only 10 years old. I wanted to be her only light in this rotten world, but 17 years later she killed her own brother. Now she single-handedly controls the entire underground empire of the region. But Wu Mingjai always wears a ring. No one knew who she was waiting for until my friend deceived me. I ended up being sold at the darkest auction in Southeast Asia. Like a commodity put up for auction, I listened as the slippery auctioneer excitedly announced the beginning. He announced that there would be a grand show that evening. A 22-year-old medical school director, a young man who's never seen the city. Starting price, $500,000. The black cloth was pulled back. A blinding light struck my eyes, blinding my pale face. I was kneeling in the middle of an iron cage. My black hair was disheveled, my eyes were empty, and my body was shaking from the lack of drugs. The ring on my ring finger flashed in the spotlight. The room erupted in commotion, but behind the glass on the second floor of the box. Shen Qinghan's pupils narrowed. The world froze for her, and the air in the box seemed to turn to ice. She suddenly stood up, feeling the ground slipping out from under her feet. Until this moment, Shen Qinghan remained silent. Her eyes, sharp as needles, froze in the shadows. It was the light reflected from my ring finger. The sight of the ring made Shen Qinghan's blood instantly freeze. She ordered the image to be enlarged. Her voice was quiet like dripping water. The next second, a silver ring appeared on the high-frequency screen. There were 2 words engraved on it. This is the voice of Shen Qinghan's mother. It was the heart I gave her 17 years ago. The glass shattered in Shen Qinghan's palm. But she felt no pain in Shen Qinghan's world. All that remained were my thin, weak eyes. I had obviously been drugged, but the dirty men under the stage continued to haggle like gamblers at a table. 1,000,000, 120,000, 350,000, each bet sounded like a sharp knife. She had a hard time containing her emotions. Her bright side, her embittered 17-year-old Uncle Yan. In a thin silk shirt, he was on the edge. The blood of her entire family flowed from her palm. 2 words, filled with love, burst forth from the depths of Shen Qinghan's soul. Adai's face paled. He'd never seen his mistress like this. It seemed she was ready to destroy everything. Shen Qinghan's voice was terrifying. But everyone present in the hall behaved like drunken soldiers, crying bitterly from horror. All the exits were blocked. She had her personal weapon with her. There were screams all around, but she heard nothing. I was the only one trembling on stage. Shen Qinghan came down the stairs. Her steps were measured. Like a ferocious beast, she had cornered her prey. The first guard wanted to run. She shot him in the head. The second one fell to his knees, begging for mercy. She stepped on his throat, and blood spilled onto the floor. She made a path across the carpet of blood as the last man fell. All that remained of the auction house was the blood of the farmer's son. I was still kneeling in the cage, the anesthesia clouding my thoughts. The world blurred. I saw Shen Qinghan walking toward me. There were bloodstains on her face. The silver ring on my hand pierced her gaze. She seemed to recognize the ring. She knelt down in front of me and carefully touched the blood stain on my face with her hand. "I am Emperor Yangzheng," her voice was elegant. "I have finally found you." She shook her head, her forehead touching my ring-bearing hand deeply. She didn't expect me to be so scared. There was a strange fear in my eyes. "Who are you?" she asked, slowly removing the veil from her face. She looked at me, covering her face with her hands. "Remember, but you just..." I shook my head hastily, a helpless lump forming in my throat. The fact that I didn't remember her was like a blunt knife, repeatedly cutting through Shen Qinghan's heart. When she wanted to touch me with the ring, I was like a small, frightened animal. I was so scared that I retreated. "Don't touch it," I whispered, but she was adamant. "It was a very important person who gave it to me." The phrase hit her like a heavy hand. "The one who holds Shen Qinghan's heart tightly in her arms. You've forgotten who she is, but you still remember how important this ring is." Shen Qinghan took off her coat and hugged me tightly. "I'll remind you everything." When she left the auction house, Adai's car was already waiting at the door. Adai saw his mistress carrying me in her arms. He saw the ring on my hand. In an instant, everything inside me exploded. Shen Qinghan carefully placed me in the car. Her voice was cold. "Find out who ordered his kidnapping. Destroy everyone who dared touch him." She turned and stared at the auction house, stunned. Her fury was merciless. "I want them dead," she snapped, and the black Maybach took off, disappearing into the night. I was in Shen Qinghan's arms, my body ablaze with fever. In my delirium, I called out, "Sister, Qinghan," and my voice sounded like a knife thrust to her. Looking into Shen Qinghan's eyes, I called her name, but I didn't even realize who was holding me. Suddenly, I began to struggle desperately. Don't touch me, Sister Qinghan, where are you? I didn't realize that she was the one I was calling. While I was unconscious, she continued giving orders until the car entered the estate. My condition was rapidly deteriorating, my body was failing, and she panicked and demanded that I call a doctor immediately. Shen Qinghan carried me into the main building. She was overcome with indescribable panic and carefully laid me down on the bed. I clung tightly to her leg, sobbing, "Please don't sell me." The private doctor was furious at my condition. He couldn't get close enough to me to administer a sedative. Shen Qinghan left the room to cool off a bit. Then she came back, leaned over me, and hugged me, holding my hand carefully. She brought my palm to her face, looking at me with tenderness as if I were the most precious book. Her voice was so quiet and gentle. "Remember that paper sunflower that cried and the candy boat you folded for me? Your efforts were truly a miracle." In my fuzzy mind, her eyes seemed familiar to me, as if they touched something in the depths of my memory. My breathing gradually stabilized. Her eyebrows involuntarily touched my fingers, but the tears streamed down her cheeks even more intensely. "Are you in a lot of pain?" Shen Qinghan whispered, bursting into tears. I recognized her for the first time in 17 years. When the sun was almost up, I finally fell asleep. But she didn't move, afraid to disturb me. At that moment, I pressed the call button to report, "Boss, I figured it out. It was your classmate Du Xiting. He deceived everyone. The head of the Qin family owns this casino. That's where he was taken," he added. She wanted to question him personally, just nodding briefly. Her kiss touched my ring. The light of hope finally returned in the dark room. Du Xiting leaned against the chair, sobbing and wiping his face. "You chose the wrong person," echoed through the air. "I'm Qin Lan's boyfriend," he began, but the heavy door swung open and Shen Qinghan slowly walked in. Du Xiting froze. He saw that very ring on her hand. It glowed with starlight and looked so striking, standing out from everything else. And this couple became an eternal curse for Yang Shu. He instantly fell into a stupor. He was shaking like a leaf. Shen Qinghan looked him over with a cold gaze. Her gaze was icy, as if she were looking at a corpse. "You seem to recognize him," she said, watching him writhe in fear. Du Xiting's tears continued to flow. "Miss Shen, I really didn't know he was yours." "I swear I didn't know what I was doing," he muttered, as Shen Qinghan slowly blew out a smoke ring. Smoke swirled around her, obscuring her features. I couldn't see the marks under her eyes, but for some reason, Shen Qinghan looked at me with a barely perceptible smile. Her voice sounded like the devil's, making her tongue go numb. "Don't you understand what you've gotten yourself into? Please forgive me." The pain in his stomach seemed to subside at the mere sight of her. "I will be your slave," he begged, but Shen Qinghan merely raised her hand. A bloodied man was dragged into the room. It was Qin Lan. He lay at their feet like trash, his face bloodied, a broken finger, a missing eye. Qin Lan groaned in pain from his stomach. This sight filled me with even greater horror than my own suffering. He understood perfectly well how terrifying Shen Qinghan's methods were. Qin Lan was sternly ordered to raise his head. His eyes held only despair. "Miss Shen, we truly didn't know he was your lover. Otherwise, if you'd been brave, we wouldn't have dared." Who knew Shen Qinghan would stand up for him? She lightly pressed her boot against Qin Lan's chest, causing him to shudder. A terrible, almost inhuman scream rang out. I was so afraid I couldn't even contain myself. "Sell my man?" Shen Qinghan, wearing a leather glove, gripped his chin. "I'm not a coward," muttered a completely mad Qin Lan. Looking at the ripped open stomach, he shouted, "Miss Shen, this is all nonsense. She said she was using her friend to pay off her debts, and she said Uncle Yang would definitely sell him for a good price." Du Xiting's face turned white. She shook her head. "You made me do it." Seeing their argument, Shen Qinghan slowly straightened up. Adai, following her instructions, drew his dagger. He walked towards Qin Lan, who screamed. Adai chopped off Qin Lan's left arm, and blood splashed onto Du Xiting's face. He screamed and lost consciousness, but when he was brought back to life with cold water, Qin Lan had already been dragged away, leaving only a trail of blood on the ground. Shen Qinghan sat across from him. She played with the silver dagger without hesitation as she walked towards Du Xiting's house. She lifted his chin with a cold tip. "Do you know how many years I've waited for Uncle Yang?" Shen Qinghan's voice was gentle, but her eyes held a frightening intensity. Du Xiting trembled. He couldn't utter a word. The cold tip of the knife reminded him of 17 years of waiting. You cut his face and almost took it away from me forever. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Death is too easy a gift for you. Shen Qinghan tossed the dagger to Adai. Knowing whose hands controlled this dark night, Du Ziteng could only shake his head in fear, and then turned her attention to the player's fingers. Shen Qinghan picked up a drum from the shelf. Her voice was cold, especially when she described how the player who betrayed his friend Du Ziteng desperately fought for his life before being killed. Don't expect Uncle Yan to forgive you. We're best friends after all, she said, performing actions that left me frozen. Suddenly she laughed, adding that she had been most gentle with our Uncle Yan. She lowered the drum and Du Ziteng let out a shuddering breath. I heard Shen Qinghan say, send him to the Red House. Tell that man there, let his voice be soft like a love letter, just hold your breath, Red House. This is the most terrible hell in her hands. Du Ziteng desperately closed his eyes, sobbing in despair, but Shen Qinghan didn't even look back. In the hallway, she bowed her head, examining the 2 letters on the ring. The next star to emerge 72 hours later was the Qin family, and the entire underground world of Southeast Asia was shaken. Shen Qinghan single-handedly erased the secrets of her empire. This black pearl of Bangkok vanished overnight. Everyone who was there that night, high-ranking security guards, even guests, all had disappeared. What joy! Since the owner herself had carried out the cleaning, no one knew why she had done it. No one guessed that she herself had undermined the reputation of her empire. At that moment, she stood calmly by my bed, gently touching my forehead. She was kind, afraid to disturb me. Uncle, don't be afraid. None of those who hurt you will be saved. I was delirious. But I accidentally grabbed her hand. Shen Qinghan immediately sat down next to me. Uncle, look, I'm here. No one can harm you. But I didn't hear it. Go away, I beg you, I raved, feeling pain. Shen Qinghan could only retreat. The doctor came out and said I needed a strong sedative. Shen Qinghan closed her eyes. Through the crack in the door, she heard the sound of a syringe. She ordered the gentlest medicine to be used. Don't harm him. In the hallway, she lit a cigarette. But she didn't bring it to her mouth. Adai came hurriedly to report. Boss, it turns out Mr. Yang was driving a car when he was 12 years old. It looks like he's lost some of his memories. Shen Qinghan nervously tapped her cigarette. A frightening look. Can this be restored? She asked. The doctor replied that it might take time. This also requires opportunity. I've been waiting for it for 17 years. Not this time. Shen Qinghan turned and looked at the closed door. The sound was too loud. If I really don't remember anything, then let's start over. The psychologist looked away. People were seriously injured. After the impact, I actively blocked out the most painful memories. Even with everyone involved present, Shen Qinghan stood in the hallway. Her eyes became dangerous and gloomy, just like mine. The doctor was very serious. Especially you, he said. You appeared in the very situation he feared most. His brain classified you as a dangerous person. Shen Qinghan looked at the closed door. It felt like a giant stone was crushing her chest. She searched for the light for 17 years. Now it's just a wall, but I'm unrecognizable. That night, Shen Qinghan suddenly sat on the floor by my door. In her hand is only a small boat wrapped in sugar paper. This is the happiness I left her then, the sound of crying behind the door. Shen Qinghan carefully placed the paper boat in front of the door. Her voice sounded like something out of a children's story. When I was little, you said a sugar boat could grant a wish. My wish is for you to call me Sister Qinghan again when the sun is about to rise. The door finally opened slightly. My hand reached out and carefully picked up the paper boat. Shen Qinghan instantly caught her breath. Through the crack, she saw me kneeling on the carpet. The boat was illuminated by the morning sun. My eyes still gleamed with confusion. But it seemed some of the fears had subsided. The echo of a flute rang out. It seemed I'd seen this somewhere before. Shen Qinghan's heart pounded wildly. It seemed like everything would return to its place. Even breathing was forgotten until I raised my head. A glance through the crack in the door. My pupils are dilated. My lips are light. Sister Qinghan. Shen Qinghan's breathing stopped again. But my gaze was distracted, as if I were watching a distant illusion. Shen Qinghan slowly knelt before me. The scar on my left eye is very visible in the sun, like a sunflower. Do you remember all this? She asked, revealing a fragile picture of the past. I grabbed my head in pain. This wasn't a dream. Shen Qinghan simply touched me. I was afraid. Don't come. I don't remember everything, I kept saying. Do you remember this? She asked. Shen Qinghan raised her hand, the ring on her ring finger. She was my mate. I only stole a glance at her. She looked at me with her eyes closed, whispering something under her breath, and I waved both hands and Shen Qinghen immediately retreated back. She raised both hands to comfort me. "Okay, forget it, we're not talking about it," she said and turned away. Then she ordered the doctor to calm me down. I heard that word. At that moment I lost control of my emotions. "Don't take the needle, I don't need your suffering." The moment the needle pierced my skin, I weakened and fell asleep. Shen Qinghen grabbed my limp body. She carefully lifted me into her arms. The weight unnerved her. "Miss Shen, post-traumatic stress disorder requires long-term treatment." The doctor predicted that Shen Qinghen would look down on me. Her pale face and clenched jaw conveyed her thoughts to the entire medical team. She gave me everything I needed. Night by the window. I walked in. "Boss, the Qin family's production chain has been cleaned up." Shen Qinghen wore a ring, her eyes so frightening. "Does your stomach hurt?" she asked, looking at her phone. "This is the same phone that hurts. There's a photo of me inside. Uncle Yan is smiling very clearly on the screen." On the finger of her left hand, which bore the unidentified image, was a silver ring. Shen Qinghen's finger lightly touched the screen. Her smile was so quiet I could barely hear it. "I'll make you smile again," she whispered, but that night I woke up from a nightmare. I rushed to the bathroom and grabbed a bottle of cold water. I scrubbed my body like crazy. My skin turned red, but I couldn't stop insisting I was dirty. Why couldn't I wash myself off? When Shen Qinghen pushed the door open, she saw me curled up in the corner, my body wet, and in my right hand clutching a shard of glass. There were several deep cuts on the wrist of my left hand. Shen Qinghen was scared to death when she looked at me. The glass fell from her hands and shattered. I looked at her, my eyes wide. "Don't come near me, I'm dirty, it will stain you." Shen Qinghen's heart felt like a brick had been punched through her. She slowly squatted down, irritated by everything that was happening. She hated those who had made me so obscene. The doctor came running and gave me a sedative. I became like a doll with empty eyes, and only my left hand hung limply at my side with a ring glittering on it. Shen Qinghen looked at the doctor. "Tie your wrist with thick gauze, increase the sedative dose," she said, pressing her hand to her chest, which was racked with excruciating pain. The doctor hesitated, "But long-term use will lead to addiction." "Then change your method." Shen Qinghen's voice was quiet, but there was a hint of steel in it. "No matter how much money it takes, use any method." The doctor sighed. "Maybe you should try making physical contact. Sometimes it helps you feel safe. The main thing is that he doesn't push you away." After everyone had left, Shen Qinghen sat carefully by the bed. She reached out and touched my hair for a few seconds. I didn't pull away, which gave her enormous courage. Shen Qinghen slowly hugged me, moving so gently that she seemed afraid of being pricked by the needles. "Sister Qinghen," I suddenly whispered, clinging to her at midnight as if in a delirium. Shen Qinghen seemed ready to bleed from that moment, the very moment when I first woke up and called her that. She hugged me tighter. "Put your forehead to mine," she replied quietly. "I've been through this too." She tried to calm me with her presence. I thrashed in her arms, my mind drifting between reality and nightmare. The only thing I could smell was the familiar, bitter aroma of wine emanating from her. Unconsciously, I jabbed a splinter into her palm. At dawn, I finally fell asleep on her chest. Shen Qinghen gently laid me down on the bed, but I clung to her skirt. "Don't leave me." Shen Qinghen closed her eyes and sat by the bed again, holding my hand tightly. "Never." Light illuminated my silk-bound wrist. Shen Qinghen was willing to defy the heavens to keep me safe. "Who dared to hurt you again?" She swore that she would burn down all of Southeast Asia, if necessary, for me. The dream drew me into the depths. I saw myself as a child on a sugar-coated boat, making a wish to a girl with silk thread in her eyes. "I hope all goes well for Sister Qinghen." The scene ended. Then I saw Shen Qinghen in the midst of a bloodbath. The scar on her eye was frightening. She was covered in blood, but she was walking toward me. I, a little girl, was frightened and retreated. In my dreams, her two selves were constantly intertwined, the teenager and the adult woman. The gentle moonlight and the cruel devil. I covered my ears and screamed. "Who are you really?" I sat up abruptly, cold sweat soaking my pajamas. Shen Qinghen was immediately at my side, holding a wet towel in her hand. She looked at me tenderly. "You just had a nightmare." She gently stroked the back of my head. At that moment, dream and reality became intertwined in my mind, and Shen Qinghen acutely sensed my fear. She silently took a step back. "I will allow the maid to stay with you," she said, getting ready to leave, but I gently pulled her by the hem of her clothes. Fragments of memory surfaced, my trembling voice, the candy I gave her. Shen Qinghan, covered in blood, slowly turning to face me in that medical tent where we were children. This was the first time I took the initiative and recalled the episode that once forced Shen Qinghan to kneel by my bed. I tried to speak carefully. Do you remember what happened next? She just shook her head helplessly. My gaze fell on the ring. Did you give this to me? I asked, and suddenly a blinding light flashed in my head. I placed it on you personally so you could shine as you wish, she replied. It's my mother's heirloom, she said. Give it to the one who will become your light. Shen Qinghan is ready to trample the entire world for you. Her movements were cautious, as if she were afraid of breaking the crystal. Seeing that I had calmed down, she turned and left, leaving the therapist completely perplexed. The former doctor sighed. He has a severe cognitive disorder. He subconsciously divided you into who you were as a child and who you are now. Shen Qinghan stood silently by the window. She rubbed the ring thoughtfully with her finger. The treatment was difficult. Such injuries cannot be repaired by force. Any mistake could lead to disaster. The doctor suggested a plan, re-establishing communication through familiar objects. Shen Qinghan's gaze fell on the paper boat in her hands. That night, I found a few more candy wrappers on the nightstand. Taking one, I felt a strange sense of recognition. My fingers formed the familiar shape of a boat. Shen Qinghan entered the room holding a cup of hot milk. The ring on her hand glittered. She looked at the candy wrapper in my hands and quietly asked, "What's your wish today?" Her words became the key to my consciousness. The door to my memories swung open. The sounds of childhood and the present overlapped. My tears fell onto the candy wrapper. "I hope I can remember who you are," I whispered. Shen Qinghan put down the milk. She knelt before me, placing her hands on my shoulders. "Whether you remember or not, you will always be my birth," she said. I woke up again, my own screams blaring. Cold sweat soaked my pajamas. I was breathing spasmodically like a drowning man. Shen Qinghan jumped, awakened by my scream. Her hands reached out to me, but she froze, not daring to touch, while I repeated in horror, "Don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me." All night long, Shen Qinghan could only stand outside the door, listening to my cries, and in the morning she sat down exhausted on the carpet. I slept, clinging to her leg. Some kind of inexpressible, silent understanding was gradually born between us. At dawn, still dazed, I mindlessly accepted the milk from her hands. That night, closing my eyes, I instinctively grabbed her wrist again. Her presence helped me calm the trembling when nightmares tried to tear me from reality. Shen Qinghan gently kisses my trembling eyelids. "Sister Qinghan," I whisper, my whole body tense, my muscles cramped. Shen Qinghan's strong hands clench into fists, barely holding herself back. Her voice echoes in the darkness, cutting through the silence of the room. I feel like I'm in the eye of a storm. My nighttime cries are louder and more desperate than usual. Shen Qinghan bursts into the room. "I saw you clutching your finger and screaming in your sleep. The ring on your left hand is bleeding. Why can't you take it off?" I cry in my sleep, raving about some commercial ring. Shen Qinghan kneels by the bed. She grabs my wrist forcefully. She looks into my eyes and lifts my left hand. She directs the spotlight onto the ring, as if calling upon the stars to bear witness. This is my ring and her state. My struggle subsides for a moment. In my memory, it is pouring rain on the plain. The dress resembles a sunflower, and the little girl hides in the shadow of the tires. Countless fragments of memories are buried deep, and they cause unbearable pain. Shen Qinghan subconsciously lets go of me. She takes a step back, but then hears my voice. She falls, and in her eyes, it seems like her entire body is covered in blood. She looks at me as I crawl away from the edge of the bed and gently presses my forehead to her chest, to her heart. Finally, I fall asleep in Shen Qinghan's arms. My hands grip her clothes tightly. I'm afraid she'll disappear in the next second. Shen Qinghan quietly leans against the headboard. She strokes my eyes and legs with her fingers. Her gaze pierces the entire space between us, from my embrace to the sheets. Shen Qinghan suddenly understands everything. 17 years of sword and knife confrontation could change the world in this moment. Even if it only lasts one night, I'm beginning to understand. In my dreams, two completely different images of Shen Qinghan intertwine. One was waiting for me at sunset in the medical camp, promising tenderness. The other stood knee-deep in blood in the middle of an auction house. She forces a cold smile. "Don't even think about running away for the rest of your life," she says, bringing me back to reality. Opening my eyes, I find myself in Shen Qinghan's arms again. She frowns and wipes the cold sweat from my forehead. "You are having a nightmare," she whispers. My gaze involuntarily falls on the scar on her left eye. As she shakes my hand, I see a steel pipe nearby. Could it possibly contain the same terrible and bloody meaning as Shen Qinghan herself? An image of 10-year-old Shen Qinghan so clumsily putting the ring on me flashes through my mind. "Uncle Yang, don't forget me," she whispered. The photograph in my head immediately breaks in half. 27-year-old Shen Qinghan ties a cold chain around my ankle so I can't leave again. "Sister Qinghan, you won't do this to me," I beg. I'm in the middle of chaos. Shen Qinghan's hands suddenly tighten. "I am her, but I have grown up," I read from the psychologist's diagnosis lying on the table. He writes to Zai, "Early symptoms of borderline personality disorder. It is recommended to immediately cease all physical contact." The vivid image still lingers in Shen Qinghan's mind. She helps out the unconscious Yang sir, but the awake me is afraid of her. Shen Qinghan emotionlessly tears the report to shreds. She slams the door. I just saw her sitting by the window and drawing something. I notice her closing the drawing paper with a guilty look. "Let me see." Shen Qinghan grabs my wrist. The drawing shows two completely different faces. On the left is a girl who looks like that very same Qinghan's sister. On the right is the current Shen Qinghan, blood on her long skirt. Her gaze is cold and frightening. A red pen draws a line down the middle, leaving a crack. Shen Qinghan pinches my arm painfully. The drawing paper crumples in her hand. "You look at me like I'm two different people," she says, and suddenly starts laughing. Her eyes are frightening. "You are not her. She promised me to look at the sun forever. You are the embodiment of the night. When will you stop lying to yourself? The Shen Qinghan from before is dead. Grab the wrist of that girl who waited for you to dry off if you want, but the devil in front of you is the same person. Get out." I scream and throw a vase at Shen Qinghan. The shards fly across her face. "I want my sister Qinghan, not this Shen Qinghan." She wipes the blood from her face and walks towards me, step by step. "Look at me, the same scar, the same ring. Isn't that enough?" I shout back. The wind tries to tear the ring off my hand. Blood and tears, I give them all. Shen Qinghan feels panic for the first time. She grabs my arms, allowing me to bite her shoulder. "I'm not her," she whispers. Shen Qinghan's voice trembled with unprecedented pain. "But I will find her. I will find her for you." At that moment, the entire estate seemed to change. Memories, old wine bottles, white medical tents, and broken wooden crates outside. Shen Qinghan tears off her magnificent long skirt. She changes into an old yellow t-shirt. I lie next to her. She looks at the old wooden pocket and orders, "Shut up, Shen Qinghan." She fires loudly into the air. "From now on, call me Qinghan. When they brought me here, Shen Qinghan." When they were building this theater of memories for me, we were all standing there, and the girl in the sun was lazily leaning on an old tire. First, she opened 3 animal-shaped cookies, the scar on her left eye still fresh. "Little uncle," Shen Qinghan laughed and called my name. The voice belonged to the girl who had been teasing me. "Go eat the cookies." Tears streamed down my face. And so she played out this absurd role. A whole week passed. That afternoon, I was actively holding Shen Qinghan's hand in the garden. I asked her to make a new candy boat, but every night, everything suddenly collapsed. Shen Qinghan dropped her mask and returned to her true form. I instantly transformed into that same golden peacock. My memory was torn to pieces. During the day, my world was filled with only my 10-year-old sister. But at night, I had to deal with the real, 27-year-old Shen Qinghan. Shen Qinghan hid her true identity from the whole world. Her group continued to work on blood-related issues. The most brutal methods were used to deal with traitors. On the 8th day, after lunch, a report with blood data arrived at the research center. I pushed the door open and found myself there. After all, Shen Qinghan still harbored a murderous intent. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and the faint scent of blood. Every sound, every movement of Shen Qinghan was a terrifying reminder that this wasn't the sweet sister Qinghan before me, but a cruel ruler who had made all of Southeast Asia tremble. Shen Qinghan stubbed out her cigarette and coldly extended her hand toward me. My entire breathing at that moment turned into a heavy, disturbing memory. I subconsciously took a step back, but didn't hit the back of my head. I only felt the cold of the doorframe. Shen Qinghan's gaze became sharp as a blade. She shuddered, her rage so intense she had to close her eyes. Didn't you scream so sweetly a minute ago? She pinched my chin and ran her thumb over my trembling lips. Why are you pretending not to know me now? My eyelashes fluttered nervously. I pressed my lips tightly together and stubbornly remained silent. What did she want to hear from me? Shen Qinghan finally exploded in anger, then hugged me tightly in front of the mirror. If I were still that worthless person, I wouldn't even be able to protect you, she whispered. In the reflection, our voices merged into one heart-rending sound. She pointed to my ring. If I had remained that powerless dog, that pack of wolves and tigers would have already torn you to pieces. She looked into the mirror, staring at her own reflection. At that moment, her eyes became suspiciously clear. Don't take away my light, I said. My voice was clear, but there was unwavering determination in it. Pretend she was still that kind sister, at least during the day. Shen Qinghan finally compromised. The next morning, Sister Qinghan stood by the door with a plate. Her hearing aid was still hanging around her neck. Would you like to eat some animal-shaped cookies today? Shen Qinghan smiled, hiding the sharp cruelty in the corners of her eyes. I straightened her bangs, which she had deliberately tousled. The sound of her kiss echoed throughout the room. Will you become that devil? I thought as she tenderly kissed my finger. As long as you like it, I can always pretend to be like this. Her words sounded like a plea. Outside the window, Ade watched us with an impassive face. He disabled the sniper's defenses, knowing the truth. The cruel tyrant feared by all of Southeast Asia was, at that moment, dead. The only thing that survived was madness, hidden under the guise of love. I realized it instantly. This tyrant had developed a weakness. This news, like the dust of the Mekong River, permeated every dark corner. Shen Qinghan had abandoned all her previous promises for my sake. 3 weeks passed, no one showed up for the negotiations. Too unnatural. The most secretive private club in Bangkok was packed, but I heard everything. Shen Qinghan spent the entire night with that man. Now he had become her primary target. Kun Sha, the man behind the Golden Triangle military investment project, carefully studied the surveillance photos. In the photos, Shen Qinghan was carrying me out of the auction. I wonder what this person is really thinking. The sooner we find out, the better. The sun blazed over the casino. A warm smile appeared on Kun Sha's face. Prepare a gift. I'm going to visit Miss Shen in person. All the darkness of Southeast Asia stirred. I smelled shark blood as I awoke in the darkness of Shen Qinghan's private estate. The top security was on alert. Snipers were lying in wait. Infrared sensors covered every inch of the walls. We found ourselves in the very center of a brewing storm. I had no idea what was going on in this dark world. I sat lazily on the swing in the garden, watching her squat by the fountain, stupidly folding a paper boat. See that bend, huh? She deliberately bent the ship's tail crookedly to tease me. I laughed when she tried to run across the road. I touched Shen Qinghan's finger to help correct the mistake. Oh, you should turn it over here. Shen Qinghan studied very seriously. Even the cold beauty of her eyes softened at that moment. Suddenly, Ade whispered something in her ear. Shen Qinghan's gaze instantly froze. The flare-up of violence was suppressed by an effort of will. She turned her head and smiled softly at me. Uncle, I need to take care of something. I'll be back soon.